I don't know of any braver men than Muslims. It's not because of their fearlessness of the dunya, it's because it doesn't matter how strong and big they can get, because they still go down into sajda and they still submit, because that's the strength. The strength is that you are not God. You don't need to do this all with your hands. It will be done. It will be done like it was going to be done since the beginning of time. One way or another, inshallah.
Hello and welcome back to the new Nomos podcast. Here we are starting season 2, and we're starting it with a bang, with a subject which I think is very relevant to the time we live in, which is what does it mean to be a man? But before we get into the episode itself, I just wanted to remind everyone about my online course, The Spirit of Excellence. It's taking all of my knowledge up until this point and condensing it into bite-sized chunks to understand the time that we live in and what we need to do as humans to really and truly make change. So that's making change within ourselves, making change within our families, making change within our communities, and making change within society at large. It's called The Spirit of Excellence. It's available, it's online, the link's in the description below. And if you've listened to my podcast and you've been following me and what I'm talking about and the subjects that I'm touching on, you'll know that this course is gold. So go ahead, click on the link, watch the recording of the webinar, which explains a lot about what's in the course and the various themes, and you'll get a better understanding of what it is you are embarking upon. And then go and purchase the course and go through it from start to finish. I promise you, whatever money that you pay in rands, dollars, pounds, euros, whatever currency you're using, I promise you, the value you are going to get in return is unmatchable. And so with that said, I'd like to introduce you to this episode itself. It's called What Does It Mean to Be a Man? Virility, Strength and Islam. It's with a young man from Malaysia called Ishaq Vadillo. He is a personal trainer, a very successful entrepreneur, and a man of great wisdom, especially for somebody of his age. So without further ado, here is season 2, episode 1. Enjoy.
I think now, like, we do live in a time where I mean, health is kind of being overlooked. Like, you don't really need to have like a healthy, fit body. It doesn't contribute to your economic output in like I guess like in a capitalist society where like money really talks, that like having a fit body with no money doesn't really talk that much. So this has always been a very, very interesting topic for me. Uh, Health, but yeah, centered around health and fitness. This is a very common topic I talk about with my clients and friends in general. People in KL kind of always know me as like the healthy fitness guy, and I always try to talk to people about it as much as possible, and also try to motivate people as much as possible to pursue a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah. So how did you get into that in the first place?
How did I get into this? I mean, I didn't really finish school, like the typical academic education, but I really enjoyed football, and football was very close to weightlifting and being fit and healthy. And I remember when I was about 18, one of the older guys who I knew, he was a personal trainer, and he was telling me like it's really cool, like it's a really fun job, and you should get into it. And I was like, actually, like I could definitely teach people or coach people how to be fit and healthy as a first occupation. And then I got into it, and I mean, I just never looked back since then. I always felt like it was a great occupation to first start. In fact, if I would recommend it to anyone who didn't really know what to do with their lives at 18, I would say like pursue health and fitness, at least like for yourself.
Yeah.
at least for yourself, and then hopefully like it can transcend into other things. Taking care of your body is essential. As we get older, it becomes even more essential. Moving your body past the point of 25, you can go down the path of like an 80% sedentary lifestyle to a like at least like an 80% active lifestyle, which like I tell people nowadays, like choose the active lifestyle because it you want to be fit and running and healthy at 45 as well.
No, 100%. Yeah. But were you extremely fit when you were 18 and you started in this job, or were you kind of like a bit of a charlatan, just like, I need something to do?
Uh no, I was really passionate about it. Like I loved going to the gym, but I was like one of those guys who like I just wanted to be big. So like I would go to the gym and I would take like like okay, no, it's not three. I mean, I did take it once, but like I would take like one or two scoops of C4, which is like a mega caffeinated pre-workout, and I would go to the gym like almost like drooling out of my mouth trying to lift like, 150 kilo deadlift. And the journey of health always changed for me. Like when I was 18, I just wanted to be big,
Mm.
big and strong. And then when I got to like 21, I kind of wanted to be a bit more athletic. And then when I was 21, I actually started doing group fitness. So I started working for this company called Fly Project in KL, and they do like indoor cycling. And then we did boxing. We did this workout called Fly Climb, which is like it's this like Versa climbing machine. It's like a rock climbing machine workout. But it was basically just like overall like encompassing like a group fitness workout.
Right.
And uh, yeah, from there, like I never really felt myself as like a very technical fitness trainer. It was more like a motivational fitness trainer.
Mm.
I mean, like technically, like fitness is very straightforward, like calorie counting, weight loss, muscle building. It's quite straightforward once you know like the basics of it. But then what really intrigued me about it was like the ability to make someone the ability to make someone do something that they didn't feel like they could do and then make it their own thing. So if I could just via words like tell someone who had never exercised before, like a 40-year-old man who had never exercised in his life, who probably doesn't really think that much of himself. He's never done a full sprint, like 100-meter sprint in his life, and put him to do like a 5 kilometer run, like a straight run for 5 kilometers in like training him for like 6 months. And then him coming
Wow.
to me and saying, like, wow, like I didn't feel like I could do that. And it's like, yeah, like but it's amazing that you can do it now. It's like it's actually to a lot of people running 5 kilometers is super easy, but to a lot of people it exists just as barrier. It's like incomprehensible, like being able to run for 5 kilometers straight, which it's like, damn, like you can actually like you have the capacity to change someone even just with words.
Wow,
I
yeah.
wasn't running with him all the time. I would sometimes just stand with him and just be like, okay, now you run. Train your knees, train your ankles, and you run. And just practice, repeat, repeat, repeat. Then they're able to do it. So that really like what really intrigued me was the ability to change people through physical exercise.
Mm.
And then that's why like I kind of I think it was last year I kind of just solidified that I think I do this for the rest of my life. Like
Oh,
whatever I coached people in, it would always have a little bit of or like a lot of it actually would be with health and fitness
mm.
for sure. My philosophy with fitness is like just teach people about themselves a lot. There's that saying like know thyself. Like that's
Yeah.
just the number one for me. Teaching someone
Mm.
about themselves, everything. When you wake up in the morning, what happens when you have a coffee? Do you crash at 2 p.m.? What happens if you don't drink enough water? Does your body heat up? If you don't get enough sleep, if you eat too much protein, if you eat too little protein, and then just setting people off on this path of like, you're not just spending like, let's say, for example, like a month or two with me. You're spending the rest of your life doing this. You're
Mm.
spending the rest of your life being healthy and active and eating well, and or at least you should try to be. So it doesn't just end with me. It doesn't just end with when the training stops, this whole thing stops. You have to enjoy doing this. And I feel like this also, I feel like a lot of fitness training is also in the mind. Like overcoming those mental barriers is a big thing in fitness. I would say like much more importantly than like training the muscles, like the muscles, training the muscles. Once you are able to do a 100 kilo squat or 100 kilo deadlift, you're only providing yourself evidence that you can now do it.
Yeah.
And once you have that evidence, it's like your self-confidence shoots up. And
Mm.
suddenly it's like, wow, like I can lift 100 kilos on my back, I can lift it up off the ground. And then
Yeah.
once you get people starting to notice, it's what I would challenge people to do who don't believe they can do it now is once you can do it, try and stop, because you get a rush when people start noticing. It's like, oh wow, you can lift this, or you look great, or like you're taking care of your health. What are you doing to have all this energy? People, you'd be like, oh shit, like
I can do
I
this.
like I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
And then it
100%.
becomes very much like and I would also like help people explore, like, are we, when it comes to health and fitness, are you doing this for that kind of, like, some people like train to get big muscles to kind of gain validation of like, do I need to look like this, or like do I need to be fit and slim, or like and help people kind of explore that thing, like, why are you training? Like, when this thing gets cut off, when that validation gets cut off by other people, do you stop? Or when you feel like, your challenge isn't really your own, do you stop? Or do you just keep going because like it's a consistency that matters? Because you're not trying to prove it to others, you're trying to prove the thing to yourself. Like, this is for me. This is my journey.
Mm.
And I'm training to prove to myself that I can like control myself in the sense where, like, when I don't feel like doing it, I can still do it. I have complete control over that part of myself.
Mm.
And yeah, like, this then goes into like self-discipline. Self-discipline as well is something I try to foster in people. um Self-discipline is basically, when it comes to fitness, is doing the thing that you don't want to do, but you have to do it, and you have to just get it done. And this again just provides evidence to yourself that, like, oh, I can do it. Even if I don't want to do it, I can still do it. I know I don't want to eat a salad today. I'm hungry. I want to eat a burger. No, like, you're gonna eat a salad. Why? Because you told yourself you're gonna do it, and you're gonna do it. I don't feel like going to the gym today, but no, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And after doing this for 1 year, you can just tell yourself, like, it was painful, it was very excruciating, but you either suffer from the pain of regret, or you suffer the pain of discipline. One of them you're gonna feel really, really happy about. The other one you're not gonna feel so happy about.
Mm.
So you can't avoid either, in my eyes.
Testosterone is, I mean, all of the studies and everything you see out there, it's like testosterone is just like depleting, prostate issues are going up. From your
Yeah.
experience and your understanding of your field of expertise, what's going on?
I definitely say there's a problem in the food we're eating, like, very much. I'm not a scientist or a doctor. Obviously, like, I listen to podcasts like this for breakfast. It's just like people like Andrew Huberman, Tim Ferriss, all these guys who are doing field work in and exploring, like, about testosterone levels and stuff. Just listening to them, it's like it just makes so much sense. Like, or the food we're eating, the lack of exercise, the sedentary lifestyles we have. Um, I'd also say, like, the lack of doing, for men, the lack of doing things that kind of fulfill us as men, um, are lacking. It's kind of like from what I see, especially in Malaysia, like, a lot of men, they kind of like go out into the world and just kind of like let themselves go. They kind of just get pulled around like this and this and this, and forget, like, their own kind of like centrality. Like, what makes you a man? Like, what makes a man a man? And like, how do we align ourselves with that? And uh how do we improve that and expand that, so like our masculinity kind of becomes bigger and bigger and bigger?
What then does it mean to be a man? And how do you define manliness and how do you define masculinity? And I'm asking you, Ishaq Vadillo, you know?
I would say it's something that how do I define manliness? I'd say like responsibility is definitely one. Like responsibility of the things that you need to do. Obviously, like you're very familiar with my father, Sheikh Vadillo, who's
Yeah.
who's instilled a sense of duty as to like what needs to be done um always as a Muslim for Allah, for Islam, um for ourselves, for your people. Um Responsibility I was is the common theme I see, especially also especially in you know if you just read the even the first few pages of the Root Islamic Education by late Sheikh Abul Qadir,
Right.
um talking all about responsibility, and he's like, you as men, this is what you have to do. This is the thing that you have to do in your lives. And you know, it's like we do live in in a society where you know you get shoved into a box and this is your box and that's it. If we do get put into that kind of little box and we're not able to explore like what are we, you know, we are meant to like break out of that, topple that system, recreate another system.
Topple what system?
The system, I guess, that like capitalism has created for man. It's like your value is economic output, and the belief that if you're not putting anything out or creating something or building something in the dunya, you're really nothing. You see it a lot in Asia, like in Asia, like I'd say like um I mean, as Asians are also very spiritual, like Asians are very materialistic. A lot of things are driven by like material gestures. And you see it like I know a lot of men who are depressed, or at least they don't really reveal that they are depressed, but you know that they don't feel like they're worth anything if they are not putting anything out. Their economic output is very, very low. Their capacity to gain wealth is very, very low, and their ability to like, you know, just hoard wealth is very, very low. And they just don't feel like they're anything. They don't feel like they can do anything. Obviously, money speaks. It's just being put in that mindset of like, damn, like I need to spend my 20s and my 30s to make enough money so I can retire in my 40s. You know, it's like that constant dialogue of like, yeah, like that's it. That's what we're here to do. Instead, like, I mean, people that I feel like people that have like broken out of that system realize that like one, like money is like it's like a toy. It's just like a little it's just like units, little units that we just play around with. I do think that like kids growing up nowadays that are exposed to like those video games where you can trade cryptocurrencies, they'll just look at money like, oh, money is just like a fun little thing. It's just like it's nothing. It's like I
Mm.
pay for little swords on a video game with real money. And slowly they're starting to like break out. They're starting to ask questions like, wait a minute, like, can I just win like $1 million? One, we actually had a, it's very interesting. We actually had a Pakistani driver who worked for us, and his younger brother made 250,000 ringgit, which is the equivalent of like 60,000 US dollars around there. He made 60,000 US dollars on Roblox. I can't remember if it was Roblox, but on some video game, he was like he made a store and then he was selling coins or something.
Oh, TikTok. Wow, wow, what a good Pakistani boy.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
So he realized, and you know, this is he's like his family is like they came here as refugees, and suddenly he
Right.
had 250,000 ringgit, and they bought a car, they got everything, and they just migrated to New Zealand with that
Wow.
money, which like is very very awesome for the family. But you know, it's like and the kid was just he's a 17-year-old kid, just like a little nerdy gamer. Literally just like, dude, like that's awesome. Like he's like, yeah, you know, whatever. Like I was just playing the game and I just realized like I just had loads of money. So it's like that way of breaking out of that system.
I want to pause you there. Yeah. the subject now. So you've got this young kid who's made a lot of money on the computer game, and now I mean, has genuinely been able to uplift the situation of his family.
Mm.
Yet he is a nerd. Is he manly? As he take because he's taken on the responsibility of looking after his family. You know, he made this money. He could have just taken it for himself, but he's still a nerd.
Mm.
Probably a bit unfit. Spends his whole day on a computer in virtual reality. So is that a manly man or not? I don't know. I'm asking.
I'd say like the gesture is certainly it, it is it's a quality gesture to take care of your family.
100%.
It's it's certainly very central to like what makes a man a man. A man, finds, almost like pride in being able to take care of others. In a way, like as I've gotten older, I've taken more pride in like, oh wow, like actually, if you do have more money, you can actually pay for your friend's meal. You can
Yeah.
actually sort out the Airbnb for a friend. You can actually give them a car when they need it. You can actually, give others strength. Um, Money does speak. At the end of the day, like money always it does speak. But those gestures if you can continue doing those, and then it doesn't. I'd say like it doesn't always mean like you have to do it like with capital. You can do it with also like other gestures. You can just help making your your family and friends' lives easier with your own, with your muscles. You can use your brain to solve problems for people to make their lives a little easier. You can with speaking, you can get people on board to help your mother move her furniture to her new unit that she's moving to.
Yeah.
It's just like you have the capacity to help in many different ways, but like money does obviously speak a lot. What he did was certainly like I'd say like it must have made him feel very proud of like
Oh,
and
100%.
he'll remember what he
100%.
for it forever.
Tell me more about biohacking because I do know the term, but I don't know the intricacies of it.
So basically, biohacking is it's like a very common, like modern term used for like a lot of young entrepreneurs. Like what made it very appealing is like young entrepreneurs, they want to kind of harness their bodies through manipulating it by like taking care of their nutrition, exercising regularly, taking like various substances, like not illegal narcotics, but like scientifically backed supplements and substances to in order to enhance and improve their cognitive performance, their physical performance, and make their bodies and minds a lot more consistent in, let's say, developing, innovating. And these are people with who have like huge, like massive net worth. So like they don't shy away from spending on like the best supplements, the best chefs, the best food, um, and exploring, paying scientists, like exploring different ways, like understanding more through like DNA testing about how they can take, what gene works best for like a Caucasian 45-year-old male with blue eyes who has this genetic background, who has a history, family has a history of heart disease. How can I manipulate it so I can consistently be like at my best all the time? Obviously, like like for most normal people, like every day is like an up and a down. Like one day you feel like super energetic, you feel pumped, you feel motivated, but then the next day you just feel like, oh, I just don't want to do anything. I just want to stay in bed all day and like I don't want to move. But then when you're at that level, you can't really afford to have those days. So these guys do go into like huge, and this isn't just these guys. I mean, like I would say, like I try to biohack as much as possible. I try to
Yeah.
manipulate my body so I can consistently just keep going. And I think, I mean, I like what I do for my own self. You don't need to be like like super rich to be able to. You just need to be able to discipline yourself, eat
Yeah.
well, and the once you do something for like 21 days, it becomes a habit. So it becomes, and I think if you do something for 66 days, it becomes your lifestyle.
Well, that's interesting. I wanted to touch on something that I'm currently doing right now. which is drawing from my course, the was called the Spirit of Excellence. I've got a section that's on classical music and using classical music as a kind of case study. So what I started yesterday is a 21-day classical music challenge where I've carefully selected 21 pieces of classical music which start at 5 minutes and they work all the way up to a full symphony at the end of the challenge of 45 minutes. So they increase like gradually, they get slightly longer, and I use pieces from different composers, different musical composition periods, different instruments. I'm like playing with the thing. There's one piece there which is only voice. So the only instrument is the human voice. And it's been structured to elevate the frequency of your inner energy and raising you up and giving you access to that heroic energy within you. And so I've started this challenge because it's part of what I'm calling to in my course, right? But I also think that, and I don't know because it's half challenge, half experiment. I've got 50 people who are like actively listening all over the world. I got actively listening to the piece of music that I send them every morning. And for accountability, they have to send me a reply saying what did they feel listening to that piece of music. And the response is, I mean, I've only done 2. I'm on day 2 now, and the responses are unbelievable. It's unbelievable how this is already, bro,
amazing.
Like, and the thing is what's really funny is that you'll get 3 women that say exactly the same thing, and one of those women is in America, another one's in Germany, and another one's in South Africa, and they've sent me the exact same feeling from that piece of music. And then you've got a man in the UK, a man in Nigeria, and a man somewhere else in South Africa, and they have sent me a message saying exactly the same thing. Completely different people in completely different places in the world, but whatever it is that music is communicating is that they felt it, and they felt the same thing, and it's like these people are in, whatever it is in tune. I mean, the one piece that I sent out this morning, for me, it's the line, with hardship comes ease. It's like there's this very powerful pieces of music, and then it's like very soft and beautiful, and then it's harsh, and then it's beautiful. And for me, it's like, with hardship comes ease. I literally put my phone down, picked my phone up again, and a woman I think she's in New York, she sent me a message saying, oh, this one just reminded me of the line, with difficulty comes ease. So it's like, use a different word, but it's exactly the same thing she's talking about, and I found it's really interesting. But it's this thing of your inner, there's an energy within you. There's a fire within all of us, whether you want to call it energy, divine energy, tapping into the universe, or whatever it is. There is abundant energy out there, and we can all tap into it. And whether that's to exercise, or whether that's to be more productive, or whether it's just to be more present with people, or however you want to use that energy, it's there and it can be tapped into. And classical music is a key into that realm. And it's a key into that realm because it's communicating something without words, without thinking. There's no thinking involved. It doesn't go in through your head. It goes into your heart. It's a feeling. It's an emotion. It's a frequency. And like, I know you've probably seen that video about the Japanese guy who played different types of music to ice and then froze it. Right?
Oh,
And
then
it
the
made
snowflakes.
right, and it made different snowflakes, right? And harsh music and beautiful music, whatever. Now, if you're listening to classical music, these harmonies and frequencies, etc., they are doing that to the water inside your body. It's happening. And it's really interesting so far. So I'm very excited to see how this unravels over
Yeah,
the next
keep doing it.
20,
That's super
21
interesting.
days. It is very interesting. And I think, I don't know, we can talk about some kind of collaboration or something and see if we can just run a
Yeah, for
test
sure.
group. Like get 10 of your clients or whatever, or however many, and we just run a test group and just see, does that affect how they feel, train, Does it affect their state? I don't know. I just feel when you're talking, I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Let's see if we can do something there.
Interesting. Yeah, like that's it. Like that's basically the backbone of it. It's like, what use does it have to us, to optimize, to push us to be more than what we are, like that's amazing. Keep doing that. Like, getting good results, like that's awesome. Like, that's what science is. Science is results.
That's the third part of my course. So there's a third section which is on the subject of music, and the first part is the journey to the self. The second part is understanding the time we live in and the traps of the 21st century. The third part is, like I mentioned, music, and then there's a fourth part, right, which is what I've called the way forward. So I'm saying that given the fact that you're on the journey to the self and you understand the time we live in and the problems with our time, and you understand that there are techniques and mediums that you can use to transcend the horrors of this reality, right, and go into a higher sphere of, whether you want, again, like what I'm saying, frequency, energy, consciousness, whatever terminology you want to use, then what's the way forward, right? And so what I've done is I've outlined 10 principles, which I call the heroic principles. And the first 5 are to unlock the wild man. So the way I've defined it is, number 1 is spontaneity, acting out of the moment. Number 2 is virility, which is the art of being a man. Number 3 is enthusiasm, which is, I've defined it as the art of showing gratitude, because if you show gratitude, you can maintain an enthusiastic relationship with life through good or bad. So if you show good for the bad, you can still stay in a positive state. The fourth one is passion, which is the art of loving. And when I say loving, I'm not just talking about romantic love or kind of relationship love. I'm also talking about loving what you do, like being passionate about the work that you do, being passionate about how you interact with other people, just putting, so the art of loving in a much broader sense. And then the fifth one I put as trust. And then I go on to another 5, which are more kind of around the chivalric principles and refining man and making man more noble. But with those 5 ones, I wanted to really, in particular, touch on this thing of virility. Because what I've said in the course is that in order to train, in order to nurture that virility within you, you have to be exercising. Because if you're not exercising, if you're not fit, you cannot be virile. So whether it requires being virile to be man or not, or whether you define man as under the banner of virility, for me, as far as I'm concerned, to thrive and survive in the coming chaos, because there's political and
Yeah.
economic chaos coming, you need to be virile alongside those other spontaneous, passionate, enthusiastic, trusting, etc. Now, you've got, under the banner of virility, you've got physical strength, you've got psychological strength, and you've got sexual strength and confidence. So those 4 kind of aspects, they all intertwine. And from what I understand, they're all connected.
Of course.
So and the underlying one is your physical exercise. And that's why I wanted to touch on, that's why I wanted to really talk with you in particular. When I look at you, honestly, if I had to define Ishaq Vadillo, you are virile. So, Mr. Virility, Mr. Virile, first of all, how does your physical strengths relate to confidence?
I think from a very young age, I was a lot more confident when I was a younger guy, for sure. Like, I over time, like, you as you go on and you start taking more risks and you start trying testing the waters, you know, you start to realize, like, actually life one is very unfair. It doesn't always go your way. Doesn't always happen the way you want it to happen.
Oh no.
And this, it does beat your confidence quite a bit, quite a lot. I'd say, like, you know, but being able to overcome that, I would say, like, I went through a period where I was much less confident, but then coming kind of out the other side, and instead of like, i- you know, instead of attaching myself to the outcome, which I did as a younger man, constantly like, oh, like, I'm expecting this to happen, and if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be really upset. And then it doesn't happen, and you're like, well, shit, like,
Yeah.
I hate my life. It's not that great. And then, you're expecting, like, oh my God, like, I'm so screwed. Like, this isn't going to go the way I thought it was. I'm so, like, this is bad. It's not good. It's not good. And then suddenly it all just turns out to be totally fine. It turns out to just be like, okay, like, even COVID. So COVID is a great example. COVID is just like, how helpless did we all feel during COVID? Especially like, I mean, I was 25 at the time. I couldn't imagine being like 14 or 12, or, it's like,
Oh
what the
yeah.
hell is going on? Like, they've just closed the world down, and every adult in around me is like, put a mask on, don't do this, don't go out, don't go out, you're gonna die. I could imagine that, just, for a kid being like, wow, like, that must have been so scary. Like, I'm sure kids have
Yeah.
internalized it, but they'll remember that for the rest of their lives. And, we're still here. We're still, like, we're fine. I remember during COVID, I was working in fitness. In overnight, I lost my entire job. Everything, my
Yeah.
entire income was just like, boom, gone. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like, who knows when this pandemic that is, like, every century, is going to end. It could end in like 10 years. It could end, I don't we didn't know when it was going to end. So it was just
Yeah.
really like uncertainty, and uncertainty. And this, if you were someone who relied only on your hands, and you were someone who just relied on yourself, as it's like, oh God, like, what can I do, what could I possibly do? I mean, honestly, there are a lot of things you could have done. Like, there are a lot of people I know made a lot of money and stabilized themselves during COVID. They were fine. I just was not in that boat when I was there. But I was never scared. I was always, I was never like, oh my God, like, this is depressing, I lost my job, I lost this, I lost all my savings during COVID. Everything gone. But it never really upset me, even though I had to work very hard for it. It made me just realize, like, it can actually just be taken away like that. But that's just life. And then when everything opened up, I was very fortunate to, like, have some opportunities to have made it all back. But throughout that period, it's like, wow, like, I went up and then I went down. And I was down for a while, but then I came back up. And I was fine the entire time. I was worried, but I was fine. And when you go through that as a young man, you realize, like, actually, like, none of this is really in our hands. Like, it's all, by Allah. And that's really the only, Allah's the only real one. We're Muslim. Allah's the only thing we can really rely on. He's the only one we can really go to when we're down, when we're up. And it was always that was always the place I kind of went to. And that's always the place I always go to when it comes to, if I lack confidence. I always kind of just say, like, I trust Allah. So that's it. That's what I'm doing. That's what's happening. And I can always go back to that. I was actually just talking with my father a few months ago about it, because he always told me, he was the one who told me that, like, trust Allah. And he would tell me this regularly, and I went to him and I was like, like, I always listened to what you said about when you said trust Allah, when you said, like, yeah, like, whenever I'm down, it's like, it's fine. It's just kind of relieves my anxiety of everything, and my lack of confidence goes away, because actually it's like, what am I really unconfident about? Like, the outcome is not in my hands. And he said, that's good. It's good that you feel that way, but that's not what I meant by that. It's not, you don't go to Allah when you lack confidence and when you're scared and when you go to Allah for everything. So, like, you can't lift 100 kilos. We'll say, like, no, I can't do it. You say, like, I can't build a $1 billion company and take Bill Gates on in the microchip market. Well, why not? Like, like, you don't have, it's not your outcome. I mean, it is, oh, sorry, it is your outcome, but it's not, you can do it if you believe you can do it. And who really gets it done is Allah. And so as long as you have that with you, it's like you can really do anything. And what my father said was, he said, it's not it doesn't just like save you when you're down. It's actually to unleash your true potential. And your
Mm,
true potential is that. It's like once you really let go of the, I guess, like the shackles of dunya, you really are like, you really can look at the world and be like, wow, like actually, like I can get my hands on as much money as I want. I can actually get my hands on any person I want in this world. I can talk to any person I want. I can speak to them. I can get them on my side. I can bring them into my community. I can have them with me. And it's like, what else do you need after that? It's like you're not going to run $1 billion business by yourself anyways. You need to be able
100%.
to bring people in. You need to be the chief of your tribe, the chief of your community, to get people in and organize and all this stuff. So, you know, I guess like for me, that was always the center of my confidence. I would like from from a young age, I always felt that way about dealing with stuff. And obviously, like it's not perfect. I'm not like a mega confident. Like I
Yeah.
obviously have my insecurities, and as do we all. But when it comes to those big things now, like, and I tell myself like, nah, it's impossible. I can't do it. I used to be that kind of person who's like, don't even try doing that. It's not gonna work. And like now I just see like it's like even if someone is so ridiculously enthusiastic about something that I'm like, oh my God, like you're so naive, like you're so like, what are you even talking about? Like just young people talking about like just silly things. But now I'm just like, God, like just go do it. Go do it and figure out that you can't do it. But I'm not gonna tell you I'm not gonna be the one to hold you back from learning a lesson right now. Like I can be that
100%.
person, but I don't want to be that person. And even if I could teach them that lesson, perhaps I'm not the right teacher. Perhaps
Right.
I'm not the way they should learn. Perhaps they should put a lot of money into a business and see it fail. And then, like perhaps that should happen. Because why
Uh,
should I be nicer to them than the world is? Because ultimately they will find the same education in terms of self-confidence. They will understand that like the outcome is not in my hands. So let me let go
mm,
of it and just be okay with whatever happens. Trust Allah, and then and just see where it goes. From there, I feel like that's the ultimate confidence for Muslim and non-Muslim, like to let go of attaching yourself to the outcome is the bread and butter. Like what holds most people back from starting anything is like an outcome. Like, oh, how is this going to make me look? How is this going to make people view me? How is this, is this going to improve my career? It's like,
yeah.
do you
The
enjoy it?
noise.
Does it
The
fulfill
noise.
you? Are you
Yeah.
satisfied? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, do it. And forget the money and forget the this. It's like, like we're living in a world where like, we're chasing something for something instead of for ourselves. And and I recently had a relative, I mean, a couple of years ago, who passed away, um, who made me realize a lot about like what we're here for is so like it just made me realize like the important things. Like we're here for little tiny little period of time, and the majority of people spend that little period of time feeling like they can't do anything. And then there are a lot of people, like there are a small little proportion of people who believe they can do anything. And it's like, be there, like be enthusiastic, be optimistic. Like, yeah, like the world is falling apart. It might seem that way because Bloomberg told you that the stock market's crashing every other day. But, like, hey, like you can make what you want of this world. Like you don't have to be in a city, you don't have to be in New York or London to enjoy life. You can be out in the fields of in Canada or in Russia, wherever you want to be, or in the jungle of India, and you can be with yourself, and you have enough.
Hundred
You.
percent, 100%. I mean, that's what one thing I always say is that because I mean, one thing that you mentioned is uncertainty, and anyone that's following me or listening to my stuff will know that I always repeat the same line, and it's actually a line your brother told me, sure,
Mhm.
ages ago, and it's a man came to Rumi and asked him what is fear, And Rumi replied, non-acceptance of uncertainty. If you accept uncertainty, it becomes adventure. And I honestly say, and anyone who listens to this, it's really and truly amazing. If the next time you're in a position of fear, and when I say fear, I mean that's overarching fear. It's like that includes like anxiety and silly little fears and little noises in your head and like fear of humiliation or fear to go out and try something new, right? If you just tell yourself that thing, what is fear? Non-acceptance of uncertainty. Okay. If you accept uncertainty, it becomes adventure. You have no idea how this thing's going to go, right?
Yeah.
You don't think you can do a 5-kilometer run, but you know what? You've taken that leap of faith and you're going to Ishaq Vadillo to go and train. And you tell yourself that, is that what is fear? Non-acceptance of uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know Ishaq Vadillo. Someone recommended him to me, but I'm going to go and train with him, and I'm just going to go boom. And then go with the uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen, but all the greatest things in life, all the most amazing experiences you're going to have, they're all going to come from a place where the outcome is uncertain. Whether that's picking up women in the street, whether that's going on a wild adventure into the jungle or doing something crazy and new that you've never done before, it's in the experience, it's in the adventure that you're gonna learn not just about the world, but also about yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
And it heightens the way you live as well. Like it really like, it puts you in like getting used to uncertainty. It's not particularly a comfortable place to be, but what it does is it just heightens the senses. It makes you like aware. It makes you like, wow, like I'm not safe. I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going on, but I have my two hands. If I need to fight someone, I can fight. If I need to run, I can run. If I need to move, and if I need to talk, if I need to bullshit, if I need to act, I
right?
can.
You can,
It's a,
you can,
yeah,
and I can. But for the man that doesn't exercise, the man that doesn't train some kind of martial art, for the man that can't run 5 kilometers, he can't do that. And that's why, for me, why I'm saying that part of these principles that I'm outlining, one of them is virility, and part of virility is strength training, and being fit, and looking after yourself, and looking after your body. Because if you're going to be one of those people that's able to break free, or not break free from fear, because no one can be fearless, but if you want to be one of those people that is able to stand up to your fears, and you want that confidence, you need to know, if you need to, I can run a kilometer that direction. If I need to, I can fight whatever's in front of me, If I need to, I can climb up over that wall, It's like I'm ready in myself, and I've got that physical confidence. And I think that is an integral part of this idea of what it means to be a man.
I agree.
One thing that I also see today is that the aspiration that what we are told to aspire towards is making money. We're told that success is having lots of money. Having lots of money is not success. Having lots of money means you're good at making money, right? So if you're going to define that as success, yeah, great. But that's not success, because you can have lots of money and live a miserable life. And I know lots of people that do have lots of money and do live miserable lives. They're psychologically broken. Yes, they can go and stay in a 5-star hotel, but what's the point of staying in a 5-star hotel if you have no friends? You're just going to be alone.
If you have to stay with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. We're told to aspire towards wealth, right? But that is in a system that has been created to destroy man, because whole man in his fullness cannot be controlled by money, and cannot be controlled by a financial system that needs man to be subservient. It needs man to be a slave in this system. Because with free, alive, hot-blooded, strong, heroic man, as like with the noble warrior as the highest aspiration, the greatest fighter I mean, we all see it. We all look at Khabib, and whatever. There's something about Khabib that we just, yes, he speaks to that echo of heroism that, as Muslims in particular, you know, it's in us. That frequency hits us like the classical music. You know, if you listen to Beethoven's Seventh Symphony or the Third Symphony or one of his really heroic pieces, you know, it speaks to that heroic part of your being, and it's like kindles that fire within you. Is that I can be more. I
Yeah.
can do more. I can do whatever I want to do. Right? It speaks to that. When you see Khabib and he wins his 30th fight and he breaks down on the floor, you know, and he's crying, and you're like, he's human. He's just lost his father. But look at that. At that point, he's now gone into sajda. And I'm Muslim, he's Muslim, and I love him. And he speaks to that heroic part of my being. And again, and I'm going to continue, and I'm going to say this, and for me personally, the same thing, exactly the same with Andrew Tate. And I said, there's a man who's not afraid to stand up and speak the truth. And he, when I mentioned those 5 qualities, I mean, he covers them all. I mean, he's spontaneous. You cannot fault him on his spontaneity. That he's so dangerous because they don't know what he's going to say next, because he doesn't know what he's going to say next. He's just speaking in the moment. He's virile as hell, you know. You can't deny his virility. He's
Mm-hmm.
enthusiastic. All of his interviews, why is he so loved and watched? Because he's enthusiastic, he's charismatic, he's humorous, he's making jokes all the time, and people want to listen to him. He's passionate about what he does. You cannot fault him on his yearning for something, and it shows through the way he speaks, the way he holds his body language. And that 5th characteristic that I was talking about, trust. And I mean, people trust him. People trust him.
Mm-hmm.
Young men trust him.
He's definitely touched like a lot of heartstrings and a lot of young men who are, growing up, like, watching videos like the Zeitgeist, watching things like The Matrix, and watching, like stories that kind of, you're like, yeah, like we do live in this system, we do live in this, and someone to just come out into the world, just be like, yeah, like this is it, like it's a joke. With podcasting, it's given everyone the platform to speak, and he's been able to go on and kind of like touch on a lot of things that are like very central to men, which is like when men feel like they're powerless, when men feel like they're like, wow, like, and this is like, like a lot of people they feel like they're powerful, but then the majority of people who aren't in that 1%, they really feel like, wow, like I am literally nothing. I have nothing. I'm not fit. I'm not rich. I have no women. I'm not attractive. It's like, to that person, he's kind of just saying like, like, he's like, look, like, if you feel like your life is worth nothing, like, do the thing that you're supposed to do, which is like not live as a slave. It's not in human, yeah, like you said before, it's like it's not in humans' nature or in man's nature to live as a like little pawn of the system and just do what you're supposed to do, without it being central to you. You're not meant to live in a little cubicle in the city on pavements with no sunlight, facing a computer screen, and without breathing any fresh air, without exercising, without walking, without talking, without socializing, without being part of any type of community that lifts you up instead of pushes you down further. I'd say
100%.
like he's definitely touched a lot of those things. I don't massively agree with everything he says. Like, I'd say like him pointing out problems is accurate, super accurate. His diagnosis sometimes is like, okay, like, wait a minute, like that is like because what he tells a lot of men to do is like, he's like, oh, like, but again, like, it can also be changed like out of context. Like, what he says is like, you got to get rich, and take care of your body, which is good. Like, you should be able to like have the capacity to take care of the things in your life with money, but that still doesn't beat the system you're in. It still doesn't beat like the system of like, of um of like, are we still gonna keep chasing the money with this? And even if you do make 300, $400 million, which is a lot of money, you don't need to work ever again. Have you beaten the system? Or have you not just put yourself above in a better situation in the system? It's like, so for me, it was always there. It was always that moment. It's like, but a lot of other things, like when he speaks about like men need to take care of their health, absolutely. There's no question about that. Men need to work harder. Yes, and men need to be responsible, more responsible for themselves. Um, um, those things, like Andrew Tate actually is very interesting. Like I remember one time he was talking on a podcast, and I used to like vape every now and then, um which I never like doing, but it's so addictive. Once you get used to it, it's just like, oh, I would just see someone with a vape and I'm like, oh, come on, please give me some. And I remember he said in a podcast, like, if you can't if there's one thing you can't control, if you have one thing, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I remember he said something along the lines of that. I remember just being like, I'm not vaping anymore. Like, no, like I'm not vaping ever again. That's always a very funny story I would tell people. But he does touch on a lot of things. Like he does put a lot of things into perspective, I would say. But then the diagnosis, I would always still tell men, like, explore explore being kind of outside that system, or like what that could even be like, or changing the system. I don't feel like there's any I don't feel like there's anything wrong with gaining wealth. Like I don't think there's
Oh
anything
no.
wrong in wanting to have more wealth at all. It's like it's perfectly okay. But if it's like, if you're viewing wealth in dollars, and this is the only way you can have wealth, or even just to buy bullion gold. It's like, if you're just buying bullion gold to keep bullion gold in your underneath your mattress, or in a
Yeah.
safe in Hong Kong, um, then, like, it's like that needs to be moved. Buy the gold, turn it into coins, and circulate it, and make that the currency. We've kind of seen that with Bitcoin. Bitcoin was kind of like the thing everyone thought was but
Yeah.
Bitcoin is just fiat currency under fiat currency. It's like double fiat. So at the end of the day, the only measure of Bitcoin's value is still in dollars. There's no translation of like, what is Bitcoin in like a weight of gold. There's no translation. The only translation you could make through that is via the exchange of the US dollar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's still,
My
but I
thing
mean,
is
that's
though,
another,
my thing on the subject of wealth is that very outwardly debt is a control mechanism. So
mm,
get rid of all of your debt. And I think that getting out of the debt trap is a massive, already that takes some amount of courage to break free of it. And then
mm,
to not, I mean, you were saying that you can get money anywhere and you can get a loan and this, that, and the other. Yes, if you have the business acumen and you're not going to screw yourself over with it. But for me, the the biggest debt, I mean, the problem is, I mean, you've touched on it now, and whether you're talking about a debt in ringgits or a debt in rands or a debt in pounds or dollars, the currency itself is a debt, and it's not even a debt; it's a deficit on a debt, and the money itself is the control mechanism. And I say this to everybody out there. And if you want to learn more, you can check out my course and you can go through it, and I will explain to you in much more detail the reasoning behind what I'm going to say. But if you believe today that your money is real, you are an obedient slave. And as long as you believe the money is real, you are an obedient slave. And the only way out is accepting that it's not real and going on a journey to make yourself better, to make yourself stronger physically, psychologically, inwardly, outwardly, and going forward. And is going to make you a better person, and it's going to bring you into the company of better people, and in the company of better people you are going to be better, and you're going to make the other people better, and you, where else do you want to be?
absolutely.
There's this beautiful line that was by one of the German, it was a German chivalric knight and philosopher. Wolfram von Essenbach recorded that Wilhelm addressed his knight saying, "There are two rewards that await us, heaven and the recognition of noble women." You know, so I mean, what more do you want? It's like you get the recognition of the most noble women in this life, and in the next life, you know, you're there in the best of places, and for me, that's what I'm calling to, and I'm calling to men to make themselves stronger so that they are able to thrive in the chaos that's coming, but also to understand the chaos that's coming, and to understand the political and the social and the philosophical and the economic arena, so that you can maneuver, and you can't do it alone. So you need other people, and like you mentioned it about taking on the responsibility and creating your tribe. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, because you need strong people around you and you need company. But if you're going to be a little weak man sitting behind a computer playing computer games all day, and yeah, you can make all your money on the computer game. And don't get me wrong, like, I've got all the respect for that young man that made his money and helped his family out and moved to New Zealand. Like, big respect. He saw a gap and he hit home. And if you are able to see gaps like that and you can smash it, do it. But also be doing the other things, you know. Also be out there training, and make yourself physically strong, because making yourself physically strong makes you psychologically strong, and it makes you sexually strong. I mean, I started this training, right, is with this man called Mock. He's absolutely brilliant. He's absolutely amazing. He's a Japanese guy. He's based in Cape Town. He's been there for ages. I just didn't know about him. It's like this proper, like, back-end ghetto gym upstairs on top of a restaurant, small little room, and he calls it stretching. Yeah, stretching. But you go in there, and for 1 hour straight, he puts you through hell, right? But it's only you. You go there with a bottle of water and a yoga mat, and every class is different, but it's stretching exercises, but it's like very dynamic stretching. I mean, it's more towards HIT, and you're doing repetition after repetition after repetition after repetition. But what I realized, so I started in January, and a lot of the exercises are all in the hip. So there's a lot of things. You've got your legs stretched out and your hands on the floor, and then lifting yourself up and doing things without your hands, doing things without your legs and stuff. But it's all a lot of the lower abdominals, hips, hip flexors, the leg muscles connecting into the hips, etc., right? And I didn't think anything of it. I was just getting such a high after these classes, like, and I was doing it at the beginning to just clear my mind, because I'm doing so much reading and research and editing, and I'm sitting on a computer, I'm editing stuff, I'm doing my course. There's so much noise, and I was going there just to shut up the noise, right?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, you know, you're getting this dopamine injection, like, straight into the adrenal gland, you know, and it's so amazing. So then I was like, I had to keep going back. I just wanted to go back, and I kept going back. And I've been doing it for like 4 or 5 months, whatever it is.
How do you feel like it has changed you, like, physically and perhaps sexually?
Well, the thing about the physically, right? Everywhere I go is like, yo, people, you're looking really strong. And I'm like, am I? Cool, I'm training. And like, somebody asked me, it's like, have you lost weight? And they're like, really aggressively, they're like, have you lost weight? I was like, I don't know, I haven't weighed myself, but I'm feeling strong. But that's not the point, because I wasn't doing it for... I've been doing it for that dopamine rush. Straight up. I enjoy that, and I keep going back for that. And like, suddenly I realized, like, okay, so all of these muscles are all of those like deep hip muscles as well. So there's your Kegels and your internal hip stuff and whatever. Bro, not only can you keep the guy up for as long as you want, you can keep the guy back for as long as you want. I did not know what was possible.
Oh,
And you
dude.
could,
If you're interested in finding out more about that, there's a really I'll send you the name. It's a book called The Multi-Orgasmic Man by this he's a Chinese spiritual healer called Mantak.
right?
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Like this is it's a very, very interesting book. And he talks about the male orgasm and the connection between ejaculation and the orgasm. He says they're separate. They're
Yeah, they
not the
are.
same thing. The ejaculation is a byproduct of the orgasm. But men can actually harness it through like training their like pelvic floor muscles and like their ability to like I think he's a Taoist, so he speaks about like the different energies in parts of the body,
Yeah,
and you can harness as you get the orgasm, you can like sort of pull the energy back up and in a way like instead you have an orgasm, but you internalize it, and the energy that's used to release is actually absorbed back into the body, so you can keep going. Like it's super interesting. Like I'll send you, and he talks about these like very strange exercises too, like like pulling the head of the penis and breathing out like it's really funny. Like he also has some videos on YouTube about it, but it's really interesting the book because when I had a friend I have a friend here who did it and he like practiced it and he can like fully do it and I was like bullshit like no way. And then I spoke to his girlfriend who's like oh no he can actually do it. I was like wow, like so he can just do it and then cycle the energy back through and just keep going and then cycle the energy back through and then at the end when he wants to finish everything after like as long as he wants really he can finish and
you
once
see,
you've
this is
cycled
what
the
I'm
energy
saying
through your body.
exactly. And what I've realized through this is what is possible. So it's like it's
Mm,
so there's one element which is like, let's say if we're using the example of this man doing the 5 kilometers, like let's just use the example for somebody like me. It's like go run a 5 kilometer uh, thing. Like yeah, of course I can run a 5 kilometers. I know I can do a 5 kilometers. I've been able to do. I used to run cross country. I'm fit. I can do it. If you just give me the track and I'm going to ride 5 kilometers. Now tell me that I can fly 500 kilometers. Right. Then one day you fly and you're like, this is possible. I can fly. It's like something that you don't even like. You're not even aware that this thing is possible, and you stumble across it and you're like, whoa, I can fly. It's like wow. So like it's all of these things, and this is something again coming back to the music. Music can tap into that. It taps into
yeah.
it's like you listen to a piece of music, and that piece of music will play in your dream. So you're dreaming, and that piece of music is echoing through your dream, and things are happening in that unseen realm, and it's real. You can tap into these places.
Have you ever experimented with like any like kind of vitality supplements? I follow so many people who talk on podcasts, especially this one guy, Dr. Andrew Huberman, who are like I love listening to. He's a medical doctor, and he's a scientist. He's like just incredibly like well versed in like all things testosterone, biohacking, and he has a podcast of his own. He constantly talks about like testosterone harnessing and things you can take. And there's actually this one I don't know if you've heard about it before. It's called Tonkat Ali. It's a
I've
supplement.
heard
It's like
about
a
it from
supplement
the
that kind of it
yeah.
yeah it like boosts sexual function and it boosts your testosterone as well. So I recently started like experimenting with these things. I took Tonkat Ali and I was experimenting with another supplement called Shilajeet. Shilajit is also something very interesting. For people listening, I would highly recommend looking into Shilajit. It's a it's a mineral that grows in the rocks in the Himalayas. Over hundreds of years of like terraforming, the mountains just kind of collide together. All the debris of rocks and trees that end up at the bottom of the mountain, um, they kind of just the trees. What ends up happening is they go under the rocks and they just decompose with rainwater and with just time. Like these trees, which are like if you took an entire tree and you just like condense it into like a mineral, like a little like bowl of minerals. Like that would be so mineral dense. And so that's basically what happens. It just decomposes and you end up with this sticky tar like mineral paste that's basically just
Right.
decomposed plant matter. And what the Sherpas in the Himalayas they'll do is they'll go up and they'll harvest it every summer because during summer the rocks heat up and then this black paste will ooze out of the rocks. They'll take it down the mountain and then they will wash it, I think, and they'll sun dry it, and then they're able to sell it as a product. So I came across this. It's so funny. I was watching one of these like conspiracy pages on
Yeah.
Instagram, and it was like one guy was talking. He's like, "Your testosterone is low. Like the human testosterone has gone down 80% in the last like 4 decades. Like you gotta take care of it. Take Shilajeet." And I was like, "What is Shilajeet?" Obviously, I like anything that's like, okay, cool, boost testosterone, increase your frequency. I'm in. Let's go. So I looked up where I could get it. I got some here, tried it, and it was like I felt like I mean I was only 27 last year. I'm not super old, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely not 21. Like I'm not 21 and I'm not 19 like I used to be. And I remember the energy I had, and I remember the 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 focus, the clearness, the ease of just like cool, I can do whatever I want. I can move however I want. And I had that energy again after taking Shilajit. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then I started doing more research about it, and I started recommending it to friends because what I liked about it is it was just I have no affiliation with this at all whatsoever. I just think it's an amazing product, but it's basically just minerals. It's like every mineral you never got that was in the mountains in the Himalayas that you're highly unlikely to have ever gotten in any type of tomato, bean sprout, um, soil that you're finding on any farmland here. You're getting a very nice dosage, and you take like a gram. You take a gram of it per day, and you can feel like your focus, your sharpness, you have this energy again. Like wow, like I didn't even feel like,
Wow, that
and
sounds.
it helped me. It really helped me understand testosterone because I was always as a fitness trainer, I was always very fascinated, even though I'd never done it, and I don't think I ever would. I was always very fascinated with steroids. I was always very
Mm.
fascinated with like how far can you push the human body to go, and I was always like, God, it'd be so interesting to see how fast you could really run, how hard how much you could really lift. Obviously, like it does, you can't just take steroids if you've never trained before and expect to lift a lot. You have to train and then do it in
Right.
a
Okay.
controlled environment. So I don't think I'd ever do it. But I was always very interested in like, oh, what does testosterone actually do for a man? And then I took this thing which is supposed to increase your testosterone, and you can feel like, okay, like this is why when I was younger I could lift so much weight. I could jump so far. You felt so fearless. You felt so confident. Even like kind of like when you would go out, and talk to women, you just be like, yeah, like it's just confidence and this and that, and then slowly it becomes less and less and less as you get older. And after taking that, I realized, like, God, like I had the energy of being 21 again.
I'm very interested to try this thing. One thing I do want to ask you is that how does somebody start on this journey? Like if they haven't trained or exercised or whatever, and they're listening to this now and they're like, you know what, the time's come. I need to do something. What's your recommendation for the first step?
I would say just start. Like I actually I saw this. I was listening to one entrepreneur talk about the worst things young entrepreneurs can say, and it said it's not now. The two killer words for a young person to start anything is just not now. I don't have enough of this.
Mm.
I'm not ready. I'm not. I'll do it next week. I'll start tomorrow. I'll start. No, it's like
Yeah.
start right now. Start as soon as you feel like it. Start. I have an
Mm.
impulse to just walk. I just need to walk, and that's enough. To start this journey of kind of self-discovery and to see what you're capable of. Um, one, just like start doing it. Two is also like change the environment you're in. Like you can't really you can't transform into your next self if you're in the environment of your old self. You're around the same people
Mm.
who expect the same of you, who see you in a certain way, will laugh at you if you try to change because they expect you to be a certain way. You cannot transform into that your next the next version of yourself if you're in that environment. So sometimes it's good to just distance yourself, if not completely extract yourself permanently from that environment, and go back when you have changed, and only when you have changed. And if the same people want to see you in that light, make them see you in another light so that you can truly transform. Um, Once you've changed, started doing it, and you've changed your environment, then it's just about really being consistent. You like, it's not going to be a straight line. Self growth is not a straight line. You're going to feel like, wow, have I even done anything after, even like, after 5 years of being an entrepreneur? It's like, wow, like I'm still not kind of where I want to be, or I still haven't. But actually, like, you've done. There's so many things I've learned. There's so many things I have accomplished. There's so many things that have transformed me, and there are so many things that aren't the same about me 5 years ago. So what am I complaining about? It's a journey,
Yeah.
and I really like this quote. Is entrepreneurship is self-discovery disguised as making money, which is so true. It's just like the entrepreneurs that
Entrepreneurship.
win are the ones
Repeat it.
that
Entrepreneurship is the
entre- is character building disguised as making money.
character building disguised as making money.
So you think you're there to go and like, I just want to get rich, but like, to get there, to want to do the thing that you want to do, for you to build an organization that wants you to accomplish a thing that you want to accomplish, it will test you through you wanting it. How badly do you want it? And entrepreneurship is you get what you put into it. Same thing with taking care of your body. Same thing with developing yourself, and same thing with being fearless on the uncertain road of becoming the
Yes.
your truest self, your higher self, your best self. Um, it's consistently, what I always tell my the clients that I have is like, you can't really, you know this word like self-love, like you can't really like appreciate and enjoy yourself if you don't discipline yourself, if you don't have if you can't dominate yourself. What I was tell them, there's like, imagine there's like a lazy version of you speaking to like a productive, hardworking version of you. Every single day, one of you is talking like, hey, like, don't do this, and don't wake up in the morning, don't wake up early, or like just wait 5 more minutes, or don't eat whatever you want. And the productive self is like saying like, no, like I'm gonna do this. No, I'm gonna. And one of those win every single day. And what you want to make sure you do is like, the version of you winning, the productive self, the self that is hardworking, the disciplined self, constantly wins every single day. And just in that winning consistently every single day, like you win once, but if you can win 700 days straight, who knows what you'll turn into? Who knows
Oh
who
yeah.
you'll become after that? And for me, that's
Oh,
that's I would always tell people to do that. Just like try and make it as consistent as possible. Work hard, and it's not easy, but at the end of the day, like, what are we here for? We're here to serve others, and we're here to be the best version we can possibly be, and we're here to learn. I think
and
that's
that's the one thing. That one thing that you just said now is we're here to serve others. And if you are the best version of yourself, by your being the best version of yourself, you're benefiting yourself, but you're also benefiting everybody around you. You know,
absolutely.
and like not to keep coming back to my principles, whatever, but if you are spontaneous, virile, enthusiastic, passionate, and trusting, is you're just going to be better company for everybody else. If
Mm,
you're with when you're with enthusiastic people, you make other people enthusiastic. It's like it's infectious like that. If you want to be enthusiastic, be around enthusiastic people. If you want to be spontaneous, be around spontaneous people. You want to be virile, be around virile people. And if you don't have virile people and spontaneous people around you, then be it, and those people will come to you. You will magnetically attract them to you. It's just the nature of creation and the nature of life. And that's what I'm calling
yeah,
people to. And it
absolutely.
sounds to me like you're calling people to the exact same thing. And I do really think that we need to do some kind of cross pollination of what you're doing on in the physical field
Abdullah, you
with the
need to come to
music.
Malaysia. You need to come to Malaysia and show people this
Okay,
music
let's do
course
it,
you have.
man.
I love the idea of like the I remember the last time I was in South Africa, I was talking to Dr. Ali because he's like an ex power lifter, and he was
Yeah, yeah,
saying
yeah, yeah.
like he was telling me like come to Dallas College and be the coach. And I was like, actually it's such a good idea just to have a sports program with anything you do, just even just like weightlifting, just like
Yeah,
you have people, you study together, you learn together, you do exams together, you gym together, you get lift weights together, you
exactly.
struggle together, you pick things up together, you run 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers together, you do marathons, you get fit, you push each other, you biohack, you optimize the body as much as possible, and then this kind of environment, I feel like um where you're around men and you have other men pushing you to be better out of love. It's like male love, just to like, you have your
And
brothers next
that's
to you and
what
you're just like,
bonds.
yeah,
That's what creates bonds. Why do you think that the US Marines go through a whole initiation process that is exactly that, pushing them to the absolute limit, but pushing
yeah,
them to the limit as a group? Because when it comes
yeah,
down to it, at the end of the day, when they need to fight on the battlefield, they need to know that they've got each other's back. And having gone through an experience like that, your brothers, it's like for me personally, is I went to boarding school and I went through 7 years of boarding school, and like of all of the boys that were in my year, I don't think I've spoken to any of them. Well, no, I've spoken to a couple of them, but like, let's say 95% of the boys that were in my year I haven't spoken to for at least like 7 or 8 years. I know for a fact tomorrow, like, I bump into one of them, it's like, he's my brother. Every single person in my year, the guys I liked and the guys I didn't like, they're my brothers. We grew up together. It's like we
mm,
went through that together, and it's what used to be the state, that used to be the norm. Is that you went through some kind of initiation and building those bonds of brotherhood, and
yeah.
something
And
is
it
lacking
gives a
today.
man strength, like if a man doesn't feel
Mm.
like he's anything.
I want to say to you, you're in Malaysia, right? Now,
Mm.
what about somebody in Malaysia who's looking for some real company? Where should they go?
Actually, I recently have been I mean, not like I recently have met this guy. He just recently became Muslim actually, but he's had a lot of family troubles and uh he's come from a very complicated background, but what's amazing, he found clarity in a lot of his life, um in his very uncertain, very troubled life. He found the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, and he came to my house actually on Eid, with a friend, and he was talking to me and Erman, my sister's new husband, and he was saying like I just became Muslim, but I haven't done the Shahada, and he did the Shahada right then and there, me and Erman just pulled him outside and were like, okay, well, if you want to do it, do it. And then he did it,
Wow.
and it was like, with the witnesses we had, we was like, oh yeah. And I've been talking to this guy for a while, and it's like he's craving it so much. I mean, he comes from a background, he's like very, very, I mean, some horrible things have happened to him, but he's very interested in learning, and he's very, very curious. And he doesn't have a lot of people around him because of his troubled life, especially his parents, because his parents are the cause of his troubled life. But he's really looking for it, and I've tried my best to be there. And I keep telling him, like, God, like, I wish you could have experienced like the community, like it was,
What's
like as we
his
saw it when we were young.
what's he passionate about? This guy in particular. Do you know
Um,
something that he's passionate about? Something that he likes?
Passionate about, he loves cooking. He really loves
Send him the
cooking. At the
episode
moment,
with
he's
his
like,
Send him the episode of my podcast with Yusuf, because that episode is all about Sheikh Abdul Qadir's table. That will give him. I mean, you will talk about communities, like that's the core of the community, and that's the Sheikh.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the Sheikh's chef. That's going to give him a taste of what it was to sit at the Sheikh's table. He'll get something. I'll send you the link. He'll get something from that, big time. Just send him
See,
that.
it's so nice. It's so nice to be able to have that, like to know that, like, actually, if you have someone who's troubled like this, like, you do need to speak to them about their passions and their this, and touch them in the part is so central to them, and then from there you can lift them up and put them on a path of, like, like, follow your heart, and know that your heart led you here, and your heart's going to get you out of this thing, and it's going to put you in
Mm,
kind of the next
mm,
version of yourself. It's going to
yeah.
transform you into the next part of your life, which is going to be wonderful. I keep telling him, like, because he does talk to me a lot about he's always like, he's like, I want my life to be better, I want this, and I always tell him, like all things, you have to tell yourself, like, this period will always pass. I remember seeing it was some like little video about Tom Hanks talking about it. He was talking with a bunch of other actors, and he was saying, like, like, you have to understand, like, some things in your life, like, they will pass. And whenever things happen, if you feel like you're on top of the world, that will pass. When you feel like the world has just crushed you and you don't feel like you're worth anything, it's like that will pass as well. And so all those the point he's in right now is he really just, like, he feels like he's at the bottom. And I keep telling him, like, this will pass. Like, you're climbing up steps, and it's not going to happen overnight. You don't get to Mount Everest on the first day, but you do get there eventually. Because you want to, you're willing to, and this is very central to you, and your heart led you here, and just follow your heart towards the next version, the next kind of step that you're going to take, and let uncertainty in a way kind of guide you, instead of
Oh
uncertainty
yes,
prevent you
yes,
from stepping on the next
yes.
uncertain step. Let the uncertainty just kind of guide you up the steps towards, the next phase of your life.
Yeah, no, just one of the big things of today is everyone looks at anxiety as this kind of disease, is this mental illness. It's like, I don't know whether I've found it a lot is people saying to me is that I have anxiety, as if it's like this thing that's like on your shoulders, like I have a boil, like I have anxiety, and I'm like, anxiety is not a mental illness. Anxiety is the body's natural reaction to kind of scary stimuli. So if
Mm.
something's there that you're nervous about, your body is bringing up that anxiety. Now the thing is that you can either avoid the thing that you're afraid of, or you observe and you go into yourself and you look at the fear and you look at the anxiety and you say, okay, what is this revealing in me?
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
go through it and with it, and allow it to unlock another part of your being. And I think today, like nowadays, now you've got anti-anxiety medication, and again, it's just that thing is not getting to who you are. It's just repressing the self. Something that I really do want to do is I want to get a grouping of men together to train, kill, and eat. When I say kill, I'm talking about killing animals. I want to do it in South Africa, and I also want to do it in like Hungary and some other places, right? But I just want, because I've got this friend of mine is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's like in his 40s, pushing 50s, but he trained under Helio Gracie, so he's got the directest nud, like it's coming straight from and he's got like a whole load of moves that Elio Gracie taught him himself, and he also was with Hoist Gracie, and he was also friends with Tupac, and like he was part of the whole rap
Wow.
game. He's a fascinating man, right?
Yeah.
But I see we got him. You got Humayun, who is like the kung fu guy. Then I've got this friend of mine in Cape Town who's just turned professional as a boxer, and I want to get like a group of men together with those three men. You fly them to wherever you need to be, and you just get like a group of guys to come together for a period of time. It doesn't have to be like months on end, but it's like you wake up in the morning and you train and you train and you do like 3 hours of training, right? Then you have breakfast and you chill. You can do whatever the hell you like. Go for a walk, check out the place wherever we are, do whatever you want. Lunch, we chow lunch. Then you do whatever you like. Then Maghrib, weird, short little talk. Dinner, do whatever you like. It's just about the company, and in between killing some animals because you need to be able to kill them.
Like a retreat almost.
Yes, in a way. I guess. I mean, you would call it a retreat, but it's just for men to be in the company of men, just to be in good company, and not for any other reason. Not for like you want to go and catch on nonsense and play with all the girls. It's like, yeah, cool, do that. I'm not stopping you from doing it, but this is not that. This is like it's just time for men to be with men. You've got meat, you've got fire, and you've got good company, and you're training, you're exercising, you're keeping yourself, strong and learning something. And even if it's just a taste of jiu-jitsu that sparks something, or it's a taste of kung fu, or a taste of boxing, or whatever it is, but it's like, get moving. At the end of the day, is that confronting fear is difficult. It's difficult. It's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be a hero. It takes courage, but confronting your fears in a group, is always going to be easier.
Yeah, it's like a fight club. It's like a fight club retreat for men, and we hunt
and
do
we kill
jiu-jitsu.
and we gut. I mean, tell me what man wouldn't go.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be fun. Actually, like you could charge, like you could make it quite a cool thing to do.
Killing, gutting, skinning, cooking, eating meat, fire. I just want to do it.
I looked into like the world of retreats. I was like, oh, do people actually do this? And it's like the people that were running the retreats after COVID were like, wow, like things went. People just want an experience. They want like something
Yeah, man.
private and something, something. I'd say like something like niche down and private. Like this, you can only get this certain thing with Abdallah Dutton,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Go to Abdallah Dutton if you want.
Classical music, jiu-jitsu, boxing, and shooting animals. It's like, come, it's like the noble hillbilly.
Yeah, but I mean, as long as it like it gets into ultimately, like at the end of the day, like I think people will come for you because they see like why you're doing this, and they'll be like, actually, like I mean, the thought of that sounds like very fun. I love that idea.
Oh yeah,
Um,
100%.
it's like I could definitely think like if you put it into just like a nice little PDF, a little like honestly, I'd say it's just an itinerary, and then just like, look, this is how much it's gonna cost to do that, and do this, and then piece it together, bring everyone over,
Bro,
and then
to be honest, I've done it so many times. I do it all the time. That's
really?
I just
Perfect.
Yeah, just with my friends. I'm not selling it as a service. I just like phone the guys. I'm like, yo, we're going to this village. You want to come? Can you make it? Yeah. No. I said, okay, cool. We're just 3 guys. Okay, we go 3 guys. Another time is 20 guys. Another time is 10 guys. But like this is what we do. Like that. I love it. I just do it for fun. Now, if I can get paid to do it, even better. You know what I mean? That's the ideal business. Is a thing that you do for fun and you get paid for it. You know? But it's also so in line with everything that I'm doing that I'm just thinking like, oh, this is awesome.
I'm sure you could put this out to like the followers you have, like, hey, I'm doing this retreat. People would just be like, oh, sign me up. Here's the sign up form.
Bro, I'm so amazed at how many people that I actually have. Like because I'm not really like, I just see numbers. I don't like actually kind of go in it, but and also it's like they're not all in one place. So it's like I got some followers on Instagram, I got some followers on TikTok, I got some followers on the podcast on Spotify, I got other ones on Apple Music, I got other ones on all the other platforms, and they're not all consolidated in one place, right? But now with Khalid, I've been building this like the on social media automation stuff, all the back
Yeah.
end and everything. And suddenly, like I did this webinar, and I get like 120 sign-ups. I'm like, oh, I've
Yeah.
got 120 people signed up for me
Yeah.
to talk for 45 minutes. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, I did this classical music thing, and I got 50 people signed up. So now, like, okay, there's a few crossovers, but I've got like my email list is now 150. Like, I
Yeah.
haven't done anything other than said that, look, I'm doing this webinar, pitched up, done the webinar. Okay, I built the
Mm.
website and whatnot. And now I'm like, do this like classical music challenge and make a couple of posts on Instagram, and it's like, boom, 50 people.
I
I'm like,
mean, Abdullah, the content you've been putting out on your podcast is like no one,
gold.
no one is talking about that. I just went to
I
Turkey
know.
like last month, and I was like begging Humaira. I was like, Humaira, come on, like start talking on. I was like, yeah, like I don't know how, because obviously they don't know how to use the technology. And I'm like
Shame.
just I think like someone like Humaira, just like the things she can say, but it's like the things you're saying on your podcast with the people you're talking to and the things you're talking about, you don't hear about those anywhere, like anywhere. And like, I mean, I guess like maybe I'm coming from like a biased point of view because I'm also massively interested in the things that you're talking about, and perhaps, but it's not unpalatable to anyone any different from me. Like anyone who would listen to it would be like, wow, like I remember the first one talking with you and Dr. Ali. I can't remember the basics, but I can't remember exactly what you guys said, but I remember how it made me feel. And I remember feeling after listening to that I was like, this is gold. Like this is absolute gold. And I was like, no one's talking like this on any podcast ever.
But
Like I
not
listen to a
just is
lot of
it
podcasts.
gold, not just is it gold, but it's also understandable. Like you pick up the Sheikh's book, right? The Interim is Mine. 95% of people can't even read the first chapter, let alone paragraph. It's very dense. It's very like you've got to understand the background, the context, the language, etc., etc., right? But then I'm having like I've studied this for 15 years. I'm passionate about it. I love it. It's like what gives me the most joy. You know, just like going through the Sheikh's works, the political writings, right? And I love teaching it. So when I
Mm,
get people in front of me, and I've been doing it for 10 years, so I'm taking the Sheikh stuff and I'm teaching it to people that have absolutely no idea about the Sheikh stuff. So and they have no idea about anything. So you got to go right back to trying to explain the origins of money for dummies,
mm,
you know, and then showing like this is a stage of events and this has happened over 300 years and we've come to this point. It's not some freak occurrence that just happened. It's like there's a train of events that's led up to this.
mm.
Now,
Yeah.
if you follow this and if you follow the historical context and if you look at the philosophy and if you look at Rome and you look at ancient Greece and you look at all of the empires that came before us, because things happen in like kind of waves, you
Yeah.
can predict what's going to happen over the next 200 years, right?
Mm,
And that 200 years may actually be 100 years or it may be 50 years. We don't know how quickly it's going to like collapse or how quickly it's going to totter on. But if you want to be not just surviving through the oncoming chaos, but thriving through it and setting your descendants up to be at the top of society when this old thing just like crumbles away and this new thing arises, then you need to be doing this.
yeah.
And you need to be understanding this. And you've got to know how power works. And you've got to know about how the money system works. And you've got to know how the human being is hardwired. And you've got to unlock those parts of your being which is going to give you more strength and more energy and more
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
Right? And it's all of these things and they all come intertwined. And there may be people that are talking about some of the things that I'm talking about. But there's nobody who's taking all of those things and putting it together into one concise argument that outlines an actionable way forward for young men in the 21st century.
Mm,
And you don't have to be Muslim because this is all encompassing. But the reality is, if you do it and you take it on, you will inevitably become Muslim because
yeah.
Islam is the only religion left, and it's not even a religion; it's a deen, and it's the only structure that still holds the divine above man, above the created.
Mm.
So it's like at the point at which you get 1,000 free men and 1,000 free women, and they're tens of thousands or 5,000 free children in a grouping in a social body, there's only one solution to govern and rule over that body of people, and it is Islam. Because
Mm.
it's the only remaining legal and social framework that isn't made up by man. It's a divine revelation, and therefore it's in tune with nature and it's in tune with the creation.
Yeah.
And so it
And
will
therefore,
work. And that's not
I
saying it's a utopia, but it's divine law. It's not man's made up law.
yeah. And I would say like even like to find like the the highest point of virility for yourself would also be to find Islam, to find Allah, and get in tune with the highest, in tune with the divine, and get really like really close, really close to it, as close as you can, and eliminate fear and eliminate anxiety if you can, and really pursue that. I feel like that. I mean, I don't know of any braver men than Muslims at all. And it's not because of their fearlessness of the dunya. It's because it doesn't matter how strong and big they can get, because they still go down into sajda and they still submit, because that's the strength. The strength is that you are not God. You are not, you don't need to do this all with your hands. It will be done. It will be done like it was going to be done since the beginning of time, one way or another, inshallah.